Call to order the Redmond City Council meeting for Tuesday, April 17th, 2018. Please rise for the invocation of the flag salute.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Precious Father, we thank you for the city you serve. We thank you for the residents and their interest in what happens here and their love for this community. And Lord, we ask that you give us guidance and direction as we make decisions tonight and give us the wisdom that we need to carry out your will. In Jesus' name, amen.
Item 1 tonight's consent docket A through D. Do I have any questions or discussion or motion?
Mr. Mayor, I had some issues that I wanted to discuss. First and foremost, we ran $151 for a Facebook ad. Do we know what that's for? Can anybody report on that?
I don't know. The best way to do that is to
I didn't look it up on ImageNet, so I don't know what that was or what it was asked. Or Laserfish, I'm sorry.
Generally when we have costs for things like that, it's because we're running like lifeguard one ads or employee one ads.
Well, I know $151 on Facebook is expensive, considering you can do, 5,000 people for $10. Was that over an extended period of time, or was it just a one-time fee?
I don't know.
Yeah, let's pull that and see what we can find out. And then I also have another issue with the ImageNet Consulting and the Laserfish. We're spending $5,000 a month. And I think that there was, at the last city council meeting, I brought that up. Is there a report related to anything regarding that?
No.
Are we going to send that out for bid, or what are we going to do?
I think it would be helpful to know how Laserfish is used, and perhaps you can do that, or maybe Susan, she uses it all the time. But
Susan and I have discussed having a tutor session to see, so that you can see what is on her end and what we're using it for.
Well,
because
that's
it's
not
not
the issue.
just the bills, it's also storing all
It's
of our
archiving a
documents.
lot.
Everything we do is on Laserfish.
The fact is, it's too expensive, and you need to find alternative ways to,
Well,
find
we
a
have
way-
an alternative way. It's file cabinets and big boxes.
well,
That's all disingenuous. There are plenty of competition out there. There's plenty.
the $3,000 for IT service is excessive, and I think we can find a better deal.
I was under the impression we were already looking for another IT company.
Well, that's why I wanted to know. You told me, I asked if there was a report, and you didn't say anything, so
Well,
now,
Laserfish and our IT company are different services.
it's still ImageNet Consulting
Well,
LLC.
it is still ImageNet, but it's different contracts. It's two different services.
So can you have a report next city council meeting related to a cost assessment for that service and come up with alternatives?
I can have a cost assessment. I don't think I can probably come up with alternatives.
And why not?
I can give you the history. The last time we did it, it took longer than 2 weeks to come up with, we had to go out for bid, and it takes longer than, they want to come in, they want to count all the computers, they want to see what operating systems you have, they want to know everything about your current setup, and
think-
then they want to give you bids.
With all due respect, I asked for this 2 weeks ago, and you don't have anything today.
Well, I'm sorry, it didn't happen.
I do think it would be helpful for all of us to have maybe a demonstration on Laserfish, because we each probably look at one thing And Laserfish really has a lot on it, so it might just be educational for
Okay.
us to know what it does, and then we can talk about it.
Mr. Mayor, I also have an issue with the city manager search. There were $1,700 that were provided. Is that part of a new contract, or was it covered under the old contract? It was my understanding that we were only going to pay for cost as opposed to any additional fees for the managerial search. Is that right?
It is, I believe those costs were printing and, do what? Yeah, publications, stuff related to the search.
$1,700 for 9 packets?
Well,
Of
and the-
information?
and
Well, they had
the
to advertise it.
Publications, the advertising.
Oh, you mean like the advertisement for the newspaper for the ad?
Well, the multiple sources, yes.
Okay. I also have an issue related to the Public Works expenditures. Are we going to get automated trash? What's the status of that?
The timeline we were given was June.
So we're going to have poly carts and automated trash trucks by June?
Mm-hmm.
That's a yes?
Yes.
Thank you, Councilman Shirey. I appreciate that.
That is correct.
Councilman, I just opened the phone book and there's 4 different headings for computers and there's just computer services and software. There's 3 right here in Bethany, it looks like. So, I mean, looks like there's just in Little Bethany, there's a few companies. We could maybe just dial these numbers. Have somebody dial the numbers and call them.
So, Mr. Moore, are you wanting to take that search over?
Yeah, if I want to make your money, I will. That's not what I get paid to do.
Well, I'm just making a joke.
I'd be
I'm
more
just
than happy
making,
to.
sir, I'm just making a joke. I'm more than
joke?
willing, willing
Okay.
to take this
Mr.
on.
Harshman, with all due respect, I don't think that that is well received, and I don't think
Apparently
it's
not.
it's within your purview to make a light of a comment related to an issue regarding the citizens' money. I mean, you can't be flippant about stuff like that.
I will, on one point, I did receive an email this week or forward that I believe said that the trash trucks may not be coming until September. And so I will need to check on that to find out exactly what that,
Were they going to be natural gas or diesel?
I have no idea. That wasn't my, my deal. So we'll need to check on that. Do I have a motion for item 1, A through D?
With the exception of the Facebook bill.
Okay.
Oh, so we've already
It's a
paid
credit
that,
card.
and it's just a reimbursement.
We have employees using credit cards on Facebook, is that what I'm hearing? Sure.
Mr. Mayor, did you say you received an email maybe suggesting that our trucks would be here in September? Is that what I heard you say?
That's what I believe I read.
Well, check into that. I would hate for that to happen.
Yep.
I've been telling neighbors.
Well, initially, I know that we were told it would be 90 days. So I don't know where the, what changed, but I do know that they have to build the chassis and then they have to put it all together, but I don't, it was news to me as far as the September date. But for the record, I would like to say that I really enjoy listening to Mr. Palmer say laser fish rather than laser fish.
It's my Midwestern upbringing.
It's classy. It sounds classy.
Just want to make sure it's not Vicky, it's Vici. It's not Miami, it's Miami.
Duly noted.
You got a bunch of Yankees here.
Please do, sir.
It's not on. Okay. Is there any possibility of having a tutorial on our new iBooks so that we can learn how to operate them and get into this business on the cost, the go to the invoices, and also go to the emails and things like that? I'm having great difficulty doing that since we only do it about once every 2 weeks, and my mental capacities do not last more than a week.
Is the invoices the laser fiche? I may need that tutorial as well, sir.
Could
You and I can go to class
we show a
together.
sign of hands over who would need that tutorial?
Yes.
Could we do, are you?
Mr. Mayor, I've reviewed these invoices and I'm satisfied.
So do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Please cast your votes. Item 2 is approval of ordinance number 1956, amending sections 132.050 of the Bethany Municipal Code to regulate the use of tobacco products and vapor products. Do I have a motion on item 2A, reading by title only?
So moved, sir.
Please cast your votes.
An ordinance of the City of Bethany amending Section 132.050 of the Bethany Municipal Code to regulate the use of tobacco products and vapor products, providing definitions, providing for penalty, repealer and severability, and declaring an emergency. And I believe there is a staff report on this.
Good evening, everybody.
Does everybody like our new TVs?
So this is a ordinance for us to be tobacco-free and vapor-free in all city-owned properties. So this would include anything that are buildings as well as parks. We have given you some additional information at your chairs today. We have been working with the Oklahoma City County Health Department to examine how we currently handle our policy and ordinances regarding smoke and tobacco products. And through that, working with them, it was determined that Bethany follows the smoke-free policies required by the Clean Indoor Act, with some exceptions of the recent updates that are now required. Our current ordinances don't address smokeless products or vapor products. Smoke-free policies to all city-owned property, including outdoor areas, and there's no policy for clean indoor air 24/7. So we've been working with the Oklahoma City County Health Department to put together this ordinance. Once again, it wouldn't allow any tobacco products on city property, including outdoor areas. This does not include the use of tobacco within someone's personal vehicle. So this was additionally started as a partnership with the Oklahoma City County Health Department to work towards becoming a certified healthy community. And it's also opening the door for several grant opportunities that will lend itself to the city of Bethany as we move forward. This is the first step in that. Also, if this is passed, we will receive the money to pay for all the no smoking signs. So we will get to help design those and get the money to put those up at all of our facilities as well through this. We are not the first city to be going tobacco-free. We are one of several. There is a map in your folders that shows some of the cities around us that have gone tobacco-free and vape-free. I do want to say this is tobacco and vape-free, including the Village, Nichols Hills, War Acres, Jones, Luther, And then it would be, we would be the next one if we decide to do this. I am more than happy to take questions, but I also have a representative here that we've been working very closely with on this project, as well as some upcoming projects that we have from the Oklahoma City County Health Department, who can answer some questions about this too. This is what he does. He works with cities on wellness programs and healthy living. So,
I have a question. If someone steps out on the sidewalk from a smoke-free restaurant to have a cigarette, or, you know, they're in a building like across the street or on SNU property, can they stand on a city-owned sidewalk and smoke?
well, that is a good question. Yes, they can. Come on up.
So
This is
even
Josh.
even those sidewalks are publicly owned by the city,
Yes.
that doesn't count.
It wouldn't count because they're considered the right-of-ways. Just like with the streets and everything, it's just, it would be too difficult to enforce that specifically. So that's kind of the middle ground of it's the right-of-way.
I had a question related to the opportunities for grant funding.
Yes, sir.
Can you explain that?
Sure. So I've been working with Danielle and I've been working with Amanda to try to get you all certified healthy, which is a certification with the state of Oklahoma. I'm sorry, I'm soft-spoken, I'm sorry. To work with grants, or work to get you a certification to qualify for certain grants for healthy living aspects here in the county of Oklahoma. So with the certification with Certified Healthy, one of their base requirements is that cities have to be smoke-free, and then even higher going up to tobacco-free, because that goes back to TSET's original message of everybody being tobacco-free, since it's the #1 preventable death across the nation. So
And once that's set in place, what are the grants that would be available?
the ones through Certified Healthy, when those grants open back up, vary from different levels. So you would qualify, say, at the beginning like bronze, then silver, then gold, but each one has a certain dollar amount that can use towards public use. So for example, I've seen several communities use them for playgrounds. Playgrounds are very, very, very expensive, and I've seen them also use it for inclusive playgrounds. So it opens the opportunity for other community members with different types of families to come in. In addition, some of the talks have been to use them for like walking tracks or anything. As long as it can be used for communities to get back to them, they're completely for, as long as it's not for like an infrastructure like a road.
So if it's a gold or a silver, what's the value of the money amount?
That one's all based on your population. So I couldn't tell you that off the top of my head. That varies from year to year with it.
So that they're just general funds that could be applied by the city at their discretion for projects related to health?
It'd have to be for a project related to health, correct. And then other grants that I'm looking with in other towns such as Jones and Luther, they have like examples of what are you doing right now to make your city healthier, what is the minimums, and a lot of them highly recommend going tobacco and vapor free, because that's just the first step. And then the rest is like sidewalks, marathons, things like that.
So would you work with the city to help us apply for those grants?
Yep.
Are they generally matching funds?
As far as I know with Certified Healthy, no. I do not know for the other grants though, because it's a slow process with the other cities as well, because we just got some of them certified over the past year, and it's a 2-year process to begin that. So you go certified for a year, and then when the grant opens up again, you can apply for it, because they want to see it renewed like every year and not just like a one-time thing.
Renewed every year?
Yeah, it's just like they'll have certain requirements, but if you have it the first year, it will just roll over to the next year unless they change something. And they haven't changed the requirements. They've only added some stuff that for different things the cities can apply for, I think for the past 4 or 5 years now. They don't take anything away usually.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I want to know from Chief Cole if this is going to be terribly encumbering upon the patrol people, because that could, I mean, there's a lot of people still smoking.
There's 21% of the people in Oklahoma that still smoke.
This ordinance isn't going to be something that we're primarily looking to enforce. We have other very important duties as police officers to do, but however, if we had citizens' complaints based on this ordinance, we'd certainly respond But, you know, it's a big step towards this healthy cities, and if it helps us get grant funds, you know, the police are here to help with that. But it's not something that we're going to routinely patrol and try to catch people smoking in non-smoking areas. But we would respond if we receive complaints like any other complaint. That answer your question, sir?
But if you stop somebody in their vehicle and they get outside the car, they're still not liable for a possible
Generally, the
ticket.
officer
Do
would-
we have a ticket structure for this?
We would.
Yes.
However, it would be a safety issue to allow someone to smoke outside the vehicle when dealing with a police officer, and we routinely ask people to extinguish those things. So, and we
Ask, the
we
key
do.
word here is ask.
We do.
Okay.
But this would give officers the power to write a citation in certain cases. But like I said, it's not something that I see us spending a lot of time on, or if we receive complaints, we'll certainly investigate it. But it's not something we're going to go out and look for.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve ordinance number
Can I ask
1956.
one more question, please? Just
Yeah,
to
I have a
clarify.
question, too.
Go ahead, Mr. Todd.
Well, I'm a little confused about something that was said here about, Dr. Harris asked about the sidewalk thing, and I myself, and I'm sure everybody else, has come out of a place of business, and there'll be 2 or 3 employees standing outside because they can't smoke inside, and you walk through this fog of smoke, but they're still on the sidewalk, and so predicated on what, help me to understand how this is going to address that.
And I can just tag on that. No, I mean, to ask a question too, just to clarify, because we have a large group of people that still smoke in our ward. If they're at the park, say at a birthday party or something, and they want to smoke, they walk to the sidewalk and get on the sidewalk for a safe area to smoke.
Yes. Yes.
So if they're here in the building and they want to go smoke, they go to the sidewalk.
Yes.
Okay.
But if you just go to the sidewalk in this building, you would still be on city property if you stepped off the sidewalk.
Different cities have taken different interpretations for the sidewalks. Most of them have done what the definition we've done with other cities is just the sidewalk is just part of the right-of-way, just like the city street is just part of the right-of-way for it.
So right away is a open area.
Yes, yes.
I have been in communities where the owner had to provide a smoking area that was not on the sidewalk. So you couldn't smoke within so many feet of the entrance of the building or whatever. So that's always an option too.
And that's something we work on as well with individual private businesses beyond city-owned property.
Either way, this is helping our city become healthier, right? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Thank you. Item 3 is approved. Oh, sorry, skipping ahead. 2B is the sections 1 through 3, ordinance number 1956.
You get a motion in a second for that, but I don't believe the vote was happening.
Yeah, we just voted.
Okay, now you need to emergency.
Okay, I thought we'd just done the reading by title only. No, you're right, okay. This whole conversation of smoking is,
I don't know that this
Give me a
requires an
cigarette. No, just kidding.
emergency, but I would ask that we not have this many pages of information in the future. I mean, our packet this time was 120 pages, and that was a bit overwhelming.
do I have a motion for 2C, the emergency section?
I just said I didn't think we needed it.
David, do you think it's needed?
It's probably not going to make a lot of difference one way or the other. It'll go into effect in 30 days if you don't pass the emergency clause. I don't think there's any grant pending, so
Item 3 is approval of jurisdictional agreement between Bethany Police and Putnam City Campus Police. Do we have a report or?
I provided
Intro.
a memo in your agenda packet just to summarize it. This has been a long-standing policy between Putnam City and Bethany Police. As you're aware, Putnam City schools have a campus police force, and they patrol their own facilities. But there are situations where Bethany police are called on to assist, or vice versa, and this grants jurisdiction to both entities on each other's facilities. The Putnam City Police will only have jurisdiction on areas abutting their school district property or for events that commenced on the school property. So this has been in place and operational for years. It's just that sometime in the past, these agreements were not updated, and this is just putting into writing the longstanding policy. And this does protect your officers in that it makes it clear that they're acting within the scope of their duty when they're on the school district property.
Aren't the police officers for the Putnam City School District, aren't they registered with the sheriff's department, deputy sheriff?
They're CLEAT certified.
They're CLEAT certified, so
Yeah.
they could operate within the city of Bethany.
They could, and this agreement provides them limited authority to do that. And then it also provides authority for the police chief to adopt additional rules if necessary to prevent any problems. For instance, you don't want the campus police writing
Patrolling.
tickets out here on College Avenue. But anything that pertains to the school, they will have joint jurisdiction with the Bethany Police.
Can they write traffic citations on streets in front of their schools?
They could, yes.
And this allows them to?
Yes. But those cases would come to our court if they did.
Do they typically?
I'd like to hear Mr. Cole's response on this issue.
That's what I was going to say. Is there anything in here you don't like, you'd like removed, or is there anything in here you want added?
No, as Mr. David said, this agreement before you tonight has pretty well been in place for the past 20 years. Neil Troutman signed it years ago. One of the important things it does, it allows campus police officers to write citations on events that happen in school. If you have an assault by one juvenile on another, rather than tying them up and filing cases in district court in Oklahoma County, that allows them access to our juvenile municipal court, where it's certainly more convenient for the parents to come, certainly more convenient for their police officers, and they can avail themselves of the juvenile programs that we have within our court that aren't necessarily available in district court. So, but to answer your question, Councilmember Herron, both state law and this agreement allows campus police to enforce traffic laws on streets adjacent to their properties. Now, very rarely will they write speeding tickets in school zones in front of their jurisdiction. And the main reason is they are so short-handed, they would rather have those officers on campus than working traffic, and we can certainly help them with the traffic. So there's nothing in this agreement that causes me any grief at all. We have a great working relationship with these folks. They're well-trained. I cannot think of an incident in 20 years where I feel they've overstepped their authority or anything like that. So I would certainly encourage you to approve this agreement. Like Mr. Davis said, it's been in effect. It's just been so long since we updated it, we thought that was necessary at this point. The school board has already voted and signed off on this, and so now it's simply up to you folks. So, but I do support this wholeheartedly.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Please cast your votes.
Thank you.
Item 4 is adoption of resolution number 1504, approving the water conservation policy schedule and directing the city manager to implement the water conservation schedule as required. I know that we discussed previously what would trigger us going into water rationing, but this right here, since those haven't been established yet, this will allow the city manager to help orchestrate that and come up with those if we pass this tonight.
It does divide the rationing into 4 different stages. The first being odd and even watering, and then it goes up in severity from that to the last step, which is no outdoor watering and no car washing.
So with this, there is no financial penalties if somebody is watering on the wrong day, correct?
Yes, it'll be a violation of this ordinance.
Okay. Are those the financial penalties created somewhere else?
It would be a maximum of $500.
To second Councilman Herron's concern, there's nothing in here that says anything about a penalty. And I understand that we need to do this, there's no question, because our water situation, but I don't know if the residents have had adequate notice of what the city is now voting on regarding rationing. I know it's, in my mind, the residents should know what to expect, they should understand what's coming down the pike, and then when it's here, they completely appreciate what the city council is doing and the rationale. I think we all understand the rationale, but I don't know if the residents of Bethany are fully aware of this type of water rationing. That's my concern.
I'm sure it would probably mirror closely what all the cities around us are doing, because they are all doing this kind of thing.
I would suggest for maybe even the first 6 months or up to a year that we do not do any financial penalties on this, because it is hard to get the word out for people to know that we just do written
We have a monthly newsletter that I received today that could possibly delineate anything that needs to be said about this particular ordinance, and we have put a very good listing of things that need to be done. But if we don't start with some sort of a punitive nature, it will just go on forever. And this has been in effect for more than just right now. It's been in effect for several years. When we use Oklahoma City water, we are absolutely reverted to this, and we have to enforce it. So we've been on an Oklahoma City cross tie for multiple years. So we do know that this is in effect, and we don't know when. The general public does not know whenever this takes place that we're using Oklahoma City water. So I think we should pressure to go into this. I mean, a lot of people, I've got a yard that I think a lot of, and I don't want it to die, but our water situation is not, I don't say dire and desperate, but we do use some Oklahoma City water, which kicks us into just exactly what this says we have to do.
And I would second Councilman Chattery's concern in that this was tabled on April 3rd. And in the meantime, we didn't notify anybody, especially the residents, related to the restrictions that are going to be or could be implemented tonight. So,
Except this doesn't have a date, right? I mean, this would be something the city manager decided when it should go into effect. And I know in the past we've talked about having a date certain, like on June 1, we're going to start with rationing or whatever water conservation schedule. And passing this doesn't tell anybody anything, because at some unknown date, we're going to kick it in and you may or may not know about it. And I think that's where we get in trouble with the public.
Let's just set the date, June 1st.
I think the biggest problem that we have is our ability to quickly notify the citizens of Bethany. we don't necessarily have access to 6 news channels like Oklahoma City does. But like you said, Oklahoma City is already odd even all the time. And if we were odd even all the time, we would immediately see the benefits of that with our water supply.
Mr. Harsman, I respectfully disagree. We have Facebook, we have Twitter, we have Instagram,
Well,
we have a newsletter, we have all kinds of capability. We have
We
a
do have,
database
but
of
we also have a
utility-owned.
large number of
Senior
participants
citizens that
who
just
don't
don't
have
understand this
any of
business.
those.
Well, we do have a newsletter in our utility bill.
Well,
We also
and
have
the
capability
discussion
of
has
mailing
been
things
made
out.
about a 30-day delay in that and how we would process that. And there's just many options available, many things that we're working on. And but again, I wholeheartedly support the mandatory odd even. Like you said, start out on this date, it runs through this date, and we do it all summer long.
The worst thing that can happen is that we suddenly have a whole bunch of rain and people think it's really stupid. But if you have a lot of rain, who cares whether you're watering your lawn or not?
Exactly.
So I would like to support the idea of having a date certain that it goes into effect, and then we just publicize that date.
Let's vote a emergency clause on this, even though it's not in there, and turn the emergency clause down, and it becomes effective in 30 days.
Councilman Shire, there is an effective date in the resolution. My suggestion would be to set it out for 60 days, allow the city staff to publicize it for 30 days, and tell them that it will be effective on that particular date, and then we're good.
And if tomorrow we lost half our water plant out here, we would have to turn into Oklahoma City to make enough water for us, and we would be on it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's just the date that triggers this and nothing else, then I can see that being the case. So are you saying that the date is the only thing that triggers going into odd even rationing?
I
No.
think so. It
All I'm
says- go ahead.
I'm sorry. All I'm saying is I don't think that the residents had adequate notice of these mandatory odd even watering provisions. That's all I'm saying, and I think that it was a problem on behalf of the city staff for failing to publicize this in a timely manner. And it's frustrating.
Well, they couldn't.
It hasn't been passed.
They couldn't publicize it because the triggers were not created.
Nor
So-
was it passed. The city council has to pass it.
There could be an
Correct.
informative opportunity to say, we're considering this, it's coming up, you need to be aware of it. None of that was done.
Mr. Harsman, I'm a little confused at this point. Listening to what you're saying, once this would become implemented, it would become a permanent fixture. It'd be through perpetuity.
Well, it's in
but-
perpetuity until the council decides you don't want it anymore, which could be upon drilling more wells or whatever. But if you made it from June 1st until September 1st, October 1st, then that really eliminates confusion with the citizens, because you know it's odd even. The day we have to open the tap, which can happen because the water plant breaks down, we have a huge fire. When Driver Music, for those of you who were around when
Yes.
Driver Music burned down, they used a lot of water on Driver Music. When they, whenever those tanks drop, we have to open that tap with Oklahoma City. That odd even goes into effect immediately.
See, that's what I thought the triggers were like the levels, not just the date.
That's what we're working on, is the levels. Oklahoma City's levels are when the reservoirs drop below a certain point. Well, we don't have reservoirs. The thing about the tanks are, we can fill a tank in a night. And so, you don't want to say, okay, we're odd, and then the next night, well, we're full, so that's off. It's got to be a sustainable, we're going to put out the word that we're on, level 2 because we haven't had any rain all summer or whatever. It's got to be something that the people will understand why, and it's got to be something that is reasonable. And the tank being half full is not that.
When has that explanation ever been provided to the residents? Have you told them that this is our situation and this is what we have to do? I've never seen that.
Well, we've never had this before.
Let me see if
I'd
I can
like-
clarify.
I'd like,
What?
okay.
We've never had rationing before?
Let me clarify that point.
Last
Let
summer.
Mr. Davis talk.
Rationing.
Oh, no, we've.
Mr.
Yes,
Davis,
we
you have the floor.
And that is out there.
Mr. Davis has the floor.
This ordinance has been in effect for more than 25 years, and the only thing this does to change that is to set the levels of rationing. Like I mentioned, it's divided into 4 phases. The least restrictive is odd even, and the most restrictive is no outdoor watering and no car washing. What this does is it adopts the same levels of rationing that Oklahoma City, Edmond, and most of the other metro cities have. Now, the other issue we're talking about is the guidelines that the city manager will use to move from one stage to the other. And those are not here before us. We don't have those yet. But the ordinance says that these levels of rationing will become effective upon notification by the city manager. And the fact that this is an old ordinance, it requires publication in the newspaper, which probably in today's times is not a very effective means, but historically that's what has been done. And in my tenure, we have had rationing several times in the past for various reasons. And like I say, all this resolution really does is set the levels. And I would assume it'll come back to you at a later date for the guidelines the city manager will use to determine when to go from step 1 to step 2 to step 3. And I'm sure it has to do with the amount of production that you're able to produce is what's going to ultimately boil down.
I have a question. So could we set the effective date of the resolution to take effect on the first day of June 2018, which would then notify the public that after June 1, 2018, this would all be in effect?
Yes, but this would not override that ordinance that would allow the city manager to declare a rationing plan effective tomorrow if the water tank fell down, let's say. And that's important to have that in place, I think, because sometimes you're just not going to have time to notify the public in that period of time because you just may not have any water.
Well, I would understand that, but meanwhile, there is an effective date on here. Is that to be today's date? I mean, that seems unfair to the public.
The only thing you're doing here is adopting 5 stages of rationing. Right now, you're currently in a voluntary phase 1, which is odd even. And I was thinking when we first had a water problem, I was thinking that was a mandatory order too. Mr. Caton, do you remember, was odd even mandatory at one time? That's what I think. We've had mandatory rationing as well. Now, I don't know that there was ever any official action to say it's not mandatory anymore, but I think people are actually doing it voluntarily. So it's not going to really make much difference about the effective date of this because the city manager is still going to have the authority in the event of disaster to declare rationing tomorrow if necessary.
So what is the purpose of this resolution?
It's to adopt these various phases and what the requirements are. For instance, if you go to phase 2, you go to 2-day-a-week lawn watering. If you go to phase 3, it's 1-day-a-week lawn watering. If you go to phase 4, it's hand watering only. If you go to phase 5, there's no outdoor watering.
But it only kicks in if there's an emergency declared by the
And
city
the
manager.
city manager could, if, let's say the water tank fell down tomorrow, and he said, we can't have any outdoor watering until we get that water tank put back up, he would have the authority to do that right now. This is just a method of really everybody knowing what's expected of them, that's all. For instance, if you, on 2-day-a-week watering, if you're in an odd address, your dates are Saturday and Wednesday. If you're in an even address, it's Sunday and Thursday. That's not set forth anywhere now. So it really doesn't, it's not going to impact anything if you set a date in the future.
Mr. Mayor, I move for the approval of item number 4 on the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Days.
And there is a blank on an effective date.
Do I have a second?
I don't know whether that was in the motion or not. I didn't hear it.
Is there a date?
He did not give a date.
There is a blank to be filled in.
June 1st.
Amend your motion to include June 1st.
I will second that motion.
Please cast your vote.
And in the meantime, can we publicize that, please?
I promise we will publicize this on every means that we have. Every day.
Could we put this possibly as a line in the Bethany or the Tribune, and so that people that take the Tribune would have it?
Yes, sir.
Item 5 is approval of right-of-way agreement with MCI Metro Access Transmission Service Corporation, DBA Verizon Access Transmission Service. This was tabled from the 3rd in our regular meeting, and we do have people here from Verizon if anyone has a question. I met with them yesterday, and I'm satisfied personally for what my concerns were. If there's anybody that has any other questions.
I spent a large part of the fall working on that item, and I'm also satisfied with it. Their insurance provisions are in place. The agreement was modified to meet my recommendations. I think it's all in order.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Please cast your votes. Item 6, consideration and possible approval of a proposed library change order. Actually, this was resolved earlier today, so it can be withdrawn, thanks to Mr. Caton.
Let me ask you, if this is being withdrawn, then they're withdrawing the $25,000 change order.
Yes.
Do you want an explanation?
No, I just feel it was errors and omission from the architect.
Well, I think it was originally thought that these sleeves were not part of the plans, but then I understand it was determined that they are.
Yes.
And so it's not necessary to spend additional money to provide for it. And I think that's what was explained to me. Is that accurate, Mr. Caton?
The conduit was not shown on the plans. That's kind of a normal code item. It was included in the electrical contractor's bid, so there was no need to add any money to have the conduit installed. It was already part of the electrical contractor's bid.
Errors and omissions.
Item 7, 8, and 9 are proposed executive sessions. Item 7 is discussion with city attorney concerning investigation of allegations of harassment of city employees. Item 8 is discussion with city attorney of pending litigation in Timber Ridge versus the city of Bethany. Item 9 is discussion of appropriation of funds for transfer to Bethany Economic Development Authority for purposes of purchasing real property. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Do we need a motion to join all of them? I think that motion included 7, 8, and 9, didn't it?
Yeah. Do I have a second? Did I get a second? Please cast your votes. We are back, obviously, from executive session 7, 8, and 9, and no action was taken on any of those. Item 10, consideration and possible action to authorize the city attorney to conduct an investigation into claims of employee harassment. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. Please cast your votes. Item 11, consideration and possible action to suspend with pay the acting city manager pending investigation of allegations. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. Please cast your votes. Item 12, consideration and possible action to appoint an acting city manager under certain terms and conditions. And we have chosen to vote in Mr. Steve Caton. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 11, consideration and possible action to authorize city attorney to provide a defense for the city in the case of Timber Ridge versus the city of Bethany. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 14, consideration and possible action to appropriate, transfer the sum of $250,000 to Bethany Economic Development Authority for purposes of acquiring real property to be used for economic development. And these funds would be acquired either from the general fund or hospital fund, whichever the city manager thinks is best. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. Please cast your votes. Item 15 is call to the public. Do we have anyone that wishes to address the council? Item 16 is the city attorney's report.
All my items are listed on the agenda.
Item 17, city manager's report.
I just have two quick things. Number one, I told Mr. Caton that if this went through, I was going to hand him the pencil and salute and trade seats, but he didn't agree with me. Second thing is Big Trash Pickup is proceeding, and they are at 32nd Street as of today. So
Nice.
That's all I have, sir.
Those guys are awesome, by the way. There's item A of quarterly financial report. Do we hold off on that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sorry, we're going to have to hold off on that.
Okay. 18 is council members' announcements, comments, and proposals. Let's start down at Mr. Knapp.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have no announcements tonight.
Thank you. Mr. Shirey?
Tonight, we instigated a investigation on our acting city manager and a very quick deal. And I have seen things that have been going on for 2 to 3 months that need looked into, and we haven't. I would like to speak with somebody this week, if I could, to see if I can get some resolve in this particular thing.
Thank you. Mr. McCutcheon?
I have nothing, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Herron?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have nothing.
Mr. Moore?
Just real quick, Barbara Bush passed away tonight. I don't know if y'all knew that. Her and Margaret Thatcher said one of my favorite lines is, if you have to tell people you're a lady, you're probably not one. It was just always Always a good one. And we're definitely influencing some people. We've got a 24-year-old William Cagle from Bethany. He's running for District 84, House of Representatives. And then in Bethany, we've got Chris Powell from Bethany. He's running for governor. And I just don't remember seeing a lot of Bethany people on there before. District 84 is usually Oklahoma City, and governor is usually not Bethany. So I think we're influencing some people. That's all I got.
I also heard that Mr. Tim Hawes is running for Senate seat 30.
Oh, really?
Yes. Mr. Todd?
I'm clear. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Dr. Harris?
I just noticed as I was looking at the financial report that we didn't discuss, but we spend $33,221 this month for landfill, and we spent money for recycling, but once again, I can't be at the budget meeting, so I'm lobbying again for curbside recycling and saving on our landfill costs.
If I might make a comment on that particular thing. In 1995, we had a major study done by our city manager and the assistant city manager, and there was absolutely, totally no way that they could recommend that for the city to do because of cost and the problems that it would cause for the additional people who would be required to do it. I would think that if we want to do this, maybe we should put some boxes or something out at the Public Works Department, and the people that so desire to recycle could go there and recycle, because I would like to do that also. But I just can't see asking the city of Bethany to spend money that we need desperately in other places for this particular endeavor. Thank you.
You can now do that at the War Acres Recycling Center.
Mr. Palmer?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to commend the public school teachers for their actions related to the walkout. I think a lot of progress was made, and I encourage them to continue the fight for funding of public education. I'd like to commend the Bethany Public School District for their leadership, and not only through the superintendent's office, but through the teachers that participated, and that would also include Putnam City as well. I thought we saw a lot of activism, which is a good thing, and we've seen a lot of new candidates that are running for office, and I think that that's healthy, and it's a great exercise of what we have in this community, in this country. The second thing I'd like to do would be to commend the city staff, Amanda and Danielle, specifically for their attendance at the meeting last night with the Bethany District Neighborhood Association. I want to measure my comments, but I was very excited, let's say, about how far we got and the issues that we talked about. I think we made some real progress, and I think it was a great opportunity for the citizens in Ward 2, especially in the neighborhood where I live, to communicate. And we were receptive to what they wanted and what they need, and they're going to be a part of the process. So I think that's a success, and I think we couldn't have done it without the city staff. I thank you for being there, and I look forward to your continued hard work. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. On the budget meeting Thursday at 6:30, that is, they're covering the union and personnel. And then I would like to say that I had a phone conversation today with Shotzi from Main Street Merchants, and she was asking that the merchants have been talking that they're interested in raising funds and paying for plants and flowers for the Main Street sidewalk area if the city employees would do the planting or putting up or whatever was needed done to do that. So I promised her that I would throw that out there tonight and see if anybody was opposed to them doing something like that. No one opposed?
I
All
have a
right.
question.
Yes.
Somebody with history, who put out the flower boxes originally that have been there for a long time? Are those city or were they merchants or
No idea.
does anybody know?
They were on the 23rd, they were merchants, they were merit,
These are downtown.
it was a well, it was a deal where they put some out a long time ago.
Do we have any new business? Item 19. With no new business, I declare us adjourned until May 1st, 2018. I call to order the Bethany Public Works Authority. Item 1, A and B is consent docket. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 2 is new business. Do we have any new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until May 1st, 2018. With that, I call to order the Bethany Hospital Trust. Item 1, A and B. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes.
Item 2 is a duplicate of the executive session you just conducted, so
Item 2 and
be
3. right?
appropriate to go to item 3 to have the same motion you had on the city council side.
Okay. Item 3, consideration of possible action to appropriate the transfer of $250,000. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion that
Do I have a
David
second?
just said.
Do I have a second? Please cast your votes. Item 4 is new business. Do we have any new business? I would like to say something though before I adjourn this. We recently had a movie filmed in the hospital, which is pretty exciting. You start plans with revitalizing 23rd Street, and they show up to start filming movies there. We're going to take all the credit for that. But my question was, I'd asked the people there if they, because as a part of the grant and the Oklahoma Film Foundation stuff, if they had to pay to rent the second floor of the hospital, and they said that was a part of what they have to do to be able to accept the grant. And I was just curious if what our contract says in regards to any of that kind of stuff.
That building, entire building's leased to the medical institution, and they would have the right to lease it, so they would make that call, I would think, unless.
Is there anything in there that says we get a percentage of that or no?
If it's subleased, they do, but I don't know that would, I don't know whether they subleased it or probably did.
I don't know. And I hope they do a lot more there, because I think that activity in Bethany is cool.
If that's going to be a continuing thing, we can certainly talk to the people at the hospital and work something out with them, I'm sure.
Exactly. Extras. With no new business.
Call your agent.
Yes. You're my agent, aren't you?
Okay. I can get you work for $2 a day.
That's more than I'm getting here. With no new business, I declare us adjourned until May 1st, 2018. I call to order the Bethany Development Authority. Item 1, A through C is a consent docket. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 2 is the new business. Do we have any new business? No new business. I declare us adjourned until May 1st, 2018. And with that, we are adjourned.